So tonight is June 24th, 2021. I'd like to call to order our regular Board of Education meeting, which is virtual this evening. So the minute by Governor Pritzker's Executive Orders 2020-07 and 2020-33, the Oak Park River Forest High School Board of Education in County, Illinois is convening a remote regular board meeting on today's date beginning at 6:30 p.m. My apologies, we're late, it's my fault. Board members, citizens, and staff may participate in the meeting virtually. We continue to operate under disaster declaration related to the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. The Health Department continues to advise the community to practice social distancing. Based on the current public health concerns, I, Sarah Spivey's head of the public body, do not believe it's either practical or prudent to hold an in-person meeting on today's date. And I further believe that it's not practical or prudent to have the public present at our regular meeting location. So we're going to continue to have remote meetings with updated practices to comply with Public Act 101-640 that was signed by Governor Pritzker on June 12th of 2020. Gail, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Kowski?
Here.
Mr. Arkin?
Here.
Dr. Mohanraj?
Here.
Mr. Henry?
Here.
Mr. Martinez?
Here.
And Ms. Dixon Stiles.
Here.
Thank you.
I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. Litigation or an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular district has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the district finds that an action is probable imminent, in which case the basis of that will be recorded and entered into the meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Mohanraj?
Yes.
Mr. Arkin?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Martieri?
Yep.
Mr. Kowski?
Yes.
And Ms. Dixon Stiles.
Yes. All right. So board members, please go to the closed session link that should be in your email.
You've run 26.199 miles.
Yes.
You have to get them.
Yeah, what are they added that 0.2 because of the Queen's grass thing. I'm gonna run and fill up on water. Okay. Come on.
Can you guys hear me?
I was grabbing moving.
Thumbs up.
Okay, I took.
You can't hear? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. No, I am.
Just letting you guys,
It isn't my.
just letting you guys know when you're ready, whenever you are.
The only time I did that
It was a practice.
So whenever you guys are ready.
What's that? Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. Can our Zoomers hear us? Let's see if so somebody can tell me that.
Yeah.
Ralph, you're breaking here.
No, it's no.
Folks at home, can you hear? Ready.
Oh,
Thumbs up if you can. Oh, there you go. No, Carl can hear us.
Yeah.
Ralph can too. Great, Robin.
Come on, guys. Yeah. All right.
come on.
Okay. Right. Let me just get back to my agenda and we'll be rolling here. Okay, so now we have some of the slides on the computer. Okay, now we have public comment, which since it's virtual should be via email. Guys, do we have any this evening?
Yes, we have one.
Okay. Let me back up. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Public comment. Gail, if you would like to read our public comment, that'd be great. Sorry.
This is from Monica Sheehan. Sorry, from Monica Sheehan, and she is saying that. Am I supposed to be? Okay. She says, good evening, and I thank you for the opportunity to make a public comment tonight. It's in reference to agenda item 8C. According to this report, District 200 will receive nearly $300,000 more in grant money that is spent on COVID expenditures. In the attachment's second footnote, it says, planning is still underway for how these funds will be used. I propose that the board use this money to help fund the renovation of the final 20 classrooms in Project 1 rather than tack them on to Project 2 with its 17-lane swimming pool and 600-seat natatorium. The $65 million project filled with expensive athletic lawns may never see the light of day. The board has cited budget overruns for not renovating the 20 classrooms, even though they came in well under budget at $1.5 million. If budget was actually a concern for the board in Project 1, it would not have tacked on expensive additions referred to as opportunities, including the $551,000 balcony extension. It's important to remember that District 200 has at its disposal another $20 million sitting in the cash reserve for faculty improvements, as well as $2 million budget surplus resulting from the pandemic. Clearly, there's citing money to fund the $1.5 million classroom renovations now, and construction continues to project one for at least another year. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further public comments. Is that correct?
Right. I have a question, please. Normally on this agenda, we ask if there's any FOIAs on the superintendent's report. So I am asking, are there any FOIAs?
Yes, we had 9 FOIAs and they were all resolved. Thank you.
Please.
I would like to just take a moment, and as many of you know, this is my last official Board of Education meeting. And it is with a heavy heart that I say goodbye. I want to thank the board for the opportunity of having been able to serve you, serve this community, serve our faculty and staff, but most importantly, our students. I also want to thank you for celebrating me on Tuesday. The gift that I received, both the proclamation and the painting, will forever, ever be dear to my heart. And as I said to the staff today, it's just farewell. It's not goodbye. And to my team, my amazing, amazing team. We never could have done all of the work that we've been able to do and accomplish if we weren't such a good team that really enjoyed working together as a team. To the parents in this community, both Oak Park and River Forest, I challenge you to come together for the good of this institution and for the good of our students. There's too much separation. There's too much divisiveness along the lines of particularly equity. And if we are truly about what we have said as a community for all the years that has been said, if we truly want to accomplish those things that we say we want for all of our students, not some of them, then my challenge to you is to practice what you preach, to walk the walk that you have taught, and come together as a community to make this happen, to support the work of this institution. To the faculty and staff, you've heard my challenge to you about thinking about why you got into education in the first place. It's for the students we are charged to serve. You're phenomenal faculty and staff. I challenge you to bring it. To the Board of Education, I challenge you to continue to support the work of your new superintendent, who has some heavy lifting to do, to continue to move this district forward. And you've shown continuously, those who hired me and the current existing board, that you support this work. And so I ask that you continue to stay focused, because there will be challenges outside pulling you in various directions. You keep and maintain your focus. To the students, you are the most amazing young people that I have ever, in my 44 years, had the opportunity to encounter. You asked us to address the dress code. You asked us to address equal opportunities for our LGBTQ kids. You asked us to give you a curriculum that you could begin to educate your fellow students about race. You asked for voice. You have voice. Continue to exert your voice, but exert it on things that are going to positively move the school forward and open doors of opportunity, not just for you, but the students to follow. In closing, as you've heard me say, I'm a better superintendent for having had the opportunity to work at Oak Park and River Forest High School District. I'm a better superintendent for having been able to live in this community and embrace the warmness of it. I'm a better superintendent for having had to face the challenges and the discrimination, and also I have experienced in this community. But I say to you today, I will forever be a Husky at heart, and this is not goodbye. This is just until next time. So thank you.
Dr. Fred Adams, you are definitely going to be a setback to follow, if not impossible perhaps. And we are just so incredibly grateful, and I've said this many, many times, but I would invite board members if there's anything that any board members want to say, or we can do this at the end. I'm not wed to how this goes procedurally. Want to do it at the end? Yeah? Okay. All right, so TBC. So it's been a long day. Now we have consent items. Look, there's just.
That was my superintendent announcement.
All right, so for consent items, we have the following A through N. Are there any that are going to be pulled for discussion?
No.
L. Okay. Any others that board members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Okay. First item A, on our consent agenda, I move to approve the open and closed minutes of May 25, 26, and 27, and June 10th of 2021, and declare that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of December 2019 shall be destroyed. Consent item B is move to approve the personnel recommendations, including new hires, transfers, summer school hires, and resignations as presented. C is to approve the treasurer's report for April 2021 as presented. D is presentation of monthly financials as presented. It's for April 2021 again. All right. Then there's the June 2021 check disbursements and financial resolutions as presented. F is the administration, so the approving the Tri-District Technology Consortium Agreement as has been previously presented. G is the 2021 contract for occupational therapy with Health Pro Pediatrics LLC in the amount of $68,376. Item H is the 2021-2022 physical therapist contract with supplemental health care in the amount of $72,885. I. Sorry, type issues here. The 2021-2022 contract with social worker Lisa Garvin in the amount of $50,820. Item J is the 2021-2022 speech therapist contract with Dr. Eileen Brand with speech pathology services, the amount from a range from $57,750 to $69,300. A is the Securitex Building Security Services contract for 1 year in the amount of $18.96 per hour per guard, $47,324.16 for the year. L has been pulled. M is Community Council membership for the 2021-2022 school year. N is the daily substitute rate of $130 per day and long-term substitute and permanent substitute rates of $200 a day for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there a second? Yeah, would you please call roll?
Mr. Henry,
Here.
Mr. Cartier,
No, we can't hear you.
Mr. Cartier,
Oh, I didn't hear Gail. Yes.
thank you. Mr. Cosby,
Yes.
Dr. Mohanraj,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
and Mr. Spivey.
Yes, and I would just say thank you to the folks who have agreed to serve on community council for the coming year. It is a commitment, but we really appreciate the work that all of our community council members put into it. Item L, which had been pulled. So I move to approve the institute agendas for the 2021-2022 school year. Is there a second?
Second.
And Tom, I believe you had wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I just had a brief comment. Not in support of this, and my rationale is really to be a better district. I think we need to have a time where we have our administration and our faculty working together and in professional development opportunities, and to have, you know, a good part of the day with just faculty senate is not in line with that, so I'm not in support of it.
Any comments from any other board members on this item? Okay, what would you call roll, please?
Mr. Martieri,
Yep.
Mr. Kopsky,
No.
Dr. Wallner,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
No.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Ms. Dixon Swagger.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
Our next item is, the first item is a discussion item, and it is addressing Superintendent Goal 2, A and B. This item is being presented from Ms. Cindy Sedor, Chief Financial Officer, Greg Johnson, Associate Superintendent, Dr. Greg Johnson, I'm sorry, Dr. Roxana Sanders, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dr. Lori Fiorenza, Director of Student Learning, Linda Peoples, Linda Parker, Director of Student Services, Shalima Francois Blue, Executive Director of Special Education, Kristen McKee, Coordinator of Learning Analytics and Support, Christopher Thiem, Executive Director of Educational Technology, and Dr. LaVar Adams, Executive Director of Equity Student Success. And-
Before that, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but can we introduce our new hires first?
Oh, that's right, I'm so sorry we did this to personnel. Absolutely we can.
Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce, we have 4 new administrators with us today. And so first, we have soon to be Dr. Julie Lam. She will be our new Director of Student Learning. Julie, would you like to say something?
Good evening. I'd like to thank the board and the district for the opportunity to actually return to Oak Park River Forest High School. I completed my principal internship here during the 2012-2013 school year, and it's built a very strong foundation for me to be a successful school administrator. So I'm looking forward to July 1st, looking forward to continuing the great work of Lori Fiorenza, and then looking forward to bringing in resources I have, ideas I have, and also meeting everybody, students, families, faculty, staff, and community members. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Faith Cole. Faith will be our new Director of Student Services.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So Faith will always serving as the Director of Student Services. Incredibly honored and pleasured to serve for you guys in this community, which I call home. I am a Husky, always a Husky. 20 years ago, I walked these hallways, and I think it really helped develop me into a young woman, a young adult, and to give back to this place that I care about so much. It just informs my heart. So I'm incredibly honored, and I will do my best to make you guys proud. And I understand that Linda Parker has huge shoes to fill. I look forward to the challenge. Thank you.
We have Dr. Nick Browder, who will be our new assistant as Director for Athletics.
Good evening, everyone. Just following up with everyone else, thank you for the opportunity to be here and to join this fine team. And I'm really excited to be a part of this tradition. Just in being new and new to the athletic conference just last year and working within the conference. And having this pandemic, it was a little bit tough to see, but just being in athletics and understanding what this school has done in the past and the success that we've had. And I will say we now because I'm part of it. But the success that we've had, and I plan to work very hard for you all, for the community, for the students, to make sure that we are able to continue with the success and work very hard and close with the coaches to make sure that they have everything that they need to continue on. So again, thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you.
I gotta say, this year, I think we've had we always have incredible administrators. This year that we seem to have so many just really amazing people changing positions, coming on board. So we're really thrilled to have you, and we really look forward to working with you this community. So thank you for choosing us.
We have one more,
Right.
Sarah, we have, it's so
Good evening. I'm extremely honored to join such an amazing cast of educators and administrators, and I'm joining the work as we continue to build and improve upon the academic success and proud traditions associated with Oak Park and River Forest High School. I am so humbled by the warm embrace I've received from building leaders, the team of deans, staff, parents, and the community as a whole. It has really encouraged me and invigorated me all the more to engage wholeheartedly in the work that lies ahead, and to ensure that the needs of the students and families we serve are being met without disdain and without delay. I took some time to review OPRF's strategic plan, and I'm really drawn to the component dedicated to transformative education. The strategic plan priority emphasizes the need to take a holistic, supportive, transformative approach to providing engaging, equitable learning experiences. And I believe this to be the responsibility of every adult who engages with our students, regardless of their role. And so in this area specifically, I am so eager to lend my time and my talents to fully support our growth as an educational community and to best prepare our students for the world that awaits them. I am again very grateful for this opportunity to serve this community, and I am so proud to be one of the newest members of the Husky family.
Cannot hear Dr. Pruitt-Adams.
Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, Maria says she can't hear me.
Sorry, you just came back
You
in.
can hear me now? Okay.
Yep, now I can.
I just want to say, I wanted to echo Sarah's sentiment. And there's a little bit of envy as I've watched the new members of the team who are joining that you're gonna do some great work. There's some great people who are joining the team. There are great people who are already on the team. All I can say is there's greatness ahead. Congratulations.
We're very excited.
Now I could go to the agenda item. So the item for discussion I've gone through, but as part of the superintendent's, can you hear me? 2021 goals, it requires that we really focus on finance. And at the start of the year, we made a presentation of a financial tool that is aligned to the evidence-based funding model. The second component of that was that we have to be ready for implementation in June and be able to show an analysis of where we are with comparison to the evidence-based funding model. And so that's the report that is being made tonight. This item is for discussion only, it's not for approval. It is in compliance with strategic plan priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. And making this presentation not tonight, the list of people that have already indicated that are prepared to answer any questions that you may have. Also in compliance to the board's new request for us as it relates to board presentations and items. The presentation will be succinct and we will then be ready to answer any questions that the board has. I'm turning it over.
Thank you, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. So I'm going to start just a little bit with the what this was for, and it's the adequacy target calculation, which considers what each district.
Just one question. Did you want the chart shown or no?
Yeah. Yes, please. It's very difficult. It's a really large chart. There it is.
One moment.
Thank you. Thank you. The adequacy target calculation considers what each district needs in order to adequately educate its students. This is really what this is going to help us with. There are 34 positions investments, and the definitions are in red that explain which each one would fall under. For the position, the state does not include all positions in the EDF adequacy target cost factor, but we felt in the spreadsheet that we would include all positions. These positions are listed in green underneath the definitions. There were 5 investments that are also on here that, again, are lower on the chart here. The state, the one thing I want to say is that the state uses actual expenses, but we felt that we should use the 2021 budgeted expenses, because with the anomaly of the pandemic, we felt that if we use the budgeted item or the budgeted dollars, that would actually better reflect what we actually spend in each category. The EDF adequacy target for the state is 116.9%, and our district's adequacy is 141.5%. So this is part A that I'm talking about, which shows the numbers, the dollars, and the FTE, the explanation. There's a part B that is also to the right side of this chart. And with that, what that is actually doing is it has us look at, are we aligning with our strategic plan? Are we spending our resources adequately? And also too, it's also a very good starting point for us and a benchmark that allows us to make strategic plans decisions regarding resource allocations. So with that, are there any questions?
Sure there are. Who would like to start?
Sure. I guess just as a start, what did we learn?
I would say that what we learned from going through this is that there are some categories we have some staff that's a little bit higher in some areas and a little bit lower in others. Not meaning that we're not meeting adequacy with that. What that means is that we are allocating our resources in some areas where we need to allocate to. The other thing is looking at the dollars. I think that as you look at the dollars, this will help us as we start to go forward looking at our budgets and where exactly we're spending, and also parts of negotiations is what we have learned from that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of answered, which is, where do we go from here, but you kind of started to this, so I'll let others.
If I can chime in real quick, Marjorie, the first thing I can do is thank everyone that worked on this for putting this data together. This is going to be something that I think will very much help us make better resource allocation decisions over time. I think it's really important to understand why we are investing our dollars in certain areas, why we may be investing more in some areas than what the evidence-based model indicates is sufficient, why we may be investing less. We have to see what outcomes we're generating from those, both higher and lower investments, and then decide over time, based on the real outcomes we want to see. And from my standpoint, the outcome that I most want to see is there's no longer any statistically meaningful correlation between any innate characteristics of a student, be they race, ethnicity, gender, et cetera, and anticipated academic outcomes. And so getting to that point requires us to do a critical and strategic evaluation of how we are investing our resources to, in fact, generate that outcome. This is a wonderful starting point for that. I think it's a little too soon, since this is the first time we've had it in front of us, to really understand what the meaning is of this. But I think this is something we should have numerous conversations on as a board over time, collaboratively with the administration. to see if there are ways to tweak our resource allocation strategically over time to generate better outcomes. And to be clear, what the evidence-based model does is it identifies educational practices, and that's writ large because it includes things like school psychologists and nurses and guidance counselors, et cetera. But those educational practices that over time have had a statistically meaningful correlation to enhancing student achievement. So it's a really good metric from a starting point standpoint to evaluate both what we're doing and maybe what we should be doing. So I appreciate it took a lot of work to do this, and I appreciate all the effort that went into it. And I think it's going to be a meaningful and helpful tool. And I think having it now, it's a little too soon to tell us what it means, but it gives us time to digest it, think about it, have some conversations about it, and work towards using it strategically. So thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, so one other thing, sorry. Go back to you. I needed Ralph. No, you know, I can tell you in my years on the board, that there are questions that come up from the community often, okay? And it's the same questions. And, you know, you spend too much money on administration, or you spend not enough money on this, or you do this. And this will not answer whether we spend too much or not enough directly, but it allows us to put stuff in a context versus benchmarks and standards that exist. So again, that's a positive step that without anything to compare it to, those are hard answers. You know, and everyone has an opinion, and now we can be fact-based. So.
Others? Right?
No, I agree with what Thomas said, and I agree with what Ralph said. I guess I like this. I wish the print was a lot bigger.
I wish the spreadsheet was easy.
I thought by printing it would. But I guess I have a question for Brett as the incoming superintendent, and how he views it and its usefulness, and how he will be using this as well.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, how this tool can be used has been answered. Right? We know that this provides us with some areas right off the bat that we can see some significant discrepancies. And our job now is not to come to any sort of immediate, quick, knee-jerk conclusion because we see one line, skewed one way or the other, but to begin to do a little bit more thorough investigation about why that is as it is. And as a team, we saw, for example, as we were going through this, when you take a look at core teachers right off the bat, you can see that we are slightly, and we were surprised to see this as we looked at it. It was good to see we were slightly understaffed when you take a look at FTE for our teachers. You go a little bit further down, you take a look at specialist areas and some others. We saw we were slightly above staff. And so that helped us to kind of vet out and understand our priorities as a school and say, well, look, this is a school that puts a big premium in our elective offerings, and that's actually, playing out in how we allocate FTE in the building. That's a good thing. But there are some other areas that we haven't had it long enough that, like Ralph said, to really get a feel for what real steps might be taken. But when you take a look a little bit further down, and you take a look at I can't remember what the title is called in here specifically. You're looking at some of the secretarial staff. I mean, that jumps off the staff. That is skewed. Now, to some extent, this is an atypical district in the sense that we are a district, and we applied this, as Cindy explained, from a complete district perspective. So if we were just a high school and we were taking a little bit of staff and the resources and everything we had in a traditional high school that was a smaller part of a unit district, that would lead us to one type of additional jobs in FTE that we would be able to add. because we're a district, we add even more in. But to the extent that we are as efficient as we need to be with that, we don't know yet. But that's an area that we need to focus on. So our job moving forward, those are just two examples. Our job moving forward is to go through this, figure out those areas that are really discrepant either way from what we see from the model, and figure out what type of short, long-term action plans.
Question, Cindy, going forward, as I understood it, that this is based on, because of the extraordinary COVID year, this is based on budget rather than actual. So going forward, will this be then, instead of the budget column, it will be actual expenditures, or how will that work? Or will it be a third column of actual?
Actually, we can use the expenditures, but to understand, if we use the expenditures, it's always the prior year's expenditures. So like if we fill this out and we're trying to use it to make decisions for 22, we're actually using 20 numbers. So that is the one thing. That's what actuals actually would be. You're going to go 1 year back too.
Right.
So I would say that if we were going to use this as to make a decision, then I would say that we were going to be using budgeted. If we're going to use this to say actuals and see exactly if we're matching up to the EDF, then we would be using actuals. We can actually do 2 columns. It wouldn't hurt to add another column. It's just a little more work, a lot more work. But it's okay. It's my work, so I have to do it. I'm okay with it.
Committee Remain.
I just think data is good. I like data-driven decisions in government, so I think this is a great step forward. I look forward to seeing what we get out of it.
I just agree. I'm just actually reading as we're talking, and I love the data, and I can see the differences and the deltas, and it's great to see the data, especially as a district. And I think Tom said it earlier, where we can actually have good benchmark when we're talking about the questions from the community. So I thank you for putting this together. It's very, very informative.
Yeah, another type of those comments, like, I love this. I spent a lot of time with this. And it's so helpful for context. I do have a lot of questions still, right, about the EDF and how it's all gonna work. Just as maybe upcoming attractions, I think that the board sort of, and I mentioned this to Greg as well, it wants to do sort of a deeper dive with financials and maybe have Ralph has volunteered to help with some of the EDF stuff. And so we can dig a little bit more into this in coming months. I do have one sort of more basic question for Ralph. Ralph, if you wouldn't mind, could you sort of explain adequacy? Because adequate is sort of a loaded word in and of itself. And when it comes to our students, I'm not sure anything's ever going to be adequate, right? Like we want the best.
Yeah, well, so
if you can kind of explain how that's defined here, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's easy. So it's just a technical term of art used in education finance. It doesn't mean adequate as in just barely enough. It means adequate as in, if you have the resources identified by the model in your district, you can put in place every educational practice that works to meet the needs of the students you serve. And it's called adequacy versus equity. There are 2 different concepts in education finance, but it doesn't in any way mean bare minimum. It means, in fact, the resources needed to implement every evidence-based practice that works. And interestingly, the model itself has automatic adjustments within it to cover the specific demographics of the student population being served. So there's automatic adjustments for your number of low-income students, your number of English learners, your number of special needs students, and you'll get additional resources if you have higher concentrations of students in those populations than a neighboring school district that has the same overall enrollment of as your school district, but lesser concentration. So the model really builds up resources to implement each of these evidence-based practices predicated on the very specific needs of each school district. And so adequate does not mean barely enough or just scraping by. It's just a term of art does this district have adequate resources to implement every educational practice which the evidence indicates works for students to achieve academically? Yes or no? And if you have less than your adequacy target, you're not in a good place. If you're at it or above it, you're in a good place. And that's really all that it means.
That's very helpful.
Can I, just to be sure I understand, so it sounds like I could substitute in the word sufficient, and that would essentially be what you're saying here, right? That we, without having the sort of connotations of adequate. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although the good news is the connotations of adequate in school finance lingo are good.
And Ralph, could you clarify, because I, in my mind, just to put it in perspective for me, for the state, it's something like 85% of the districts are below 90% in adequacy, or it's 90 or less than 80%. Do you know what I'm talking about, Ralph?
Yeah, no, I do know. And it's roughly 82% of the school districts right now have less than 90% of the resources they need to meet their adequacy target. The cutoff is 90% because the model itself, the Illinois state model, only looks at state and local resources that go to funding education. For numerous federal laws involving using federal money to supplant rather than supplement, et cetera, you can't include your federal funding in your school funding model. But if you're at 90% of your adequacy target as a school district, the feds generally cover about 8 to 9% of K-12 funding. So your school district pretty much has the resources it needs to implement every evidence-based practice. So that's why the 90% cutoff is so important in an adequacy model like this one. Sorry to use the word adequacy again, Marianne.
I think that's powerful data. I mean, when you think, and when we also talk equity, I mean, here you have, we're in the upper echelon in terms of resources that we have available, and in terms of our students. So how do we deploy them in a way that we get the best benefit and result for our students? That to me is our challenge. And to think that we've got it perfectly right, is not in my DNA. So
well, Tom, I not only agree with that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I ran for this board, and one of the reasons why the work being done both before I started on this board and currently by this board focused on improving outcomes for all of our students is so exciting. We have the resources to be successful. So we just have to do a really strategic job of utilizing those resources to generate the better outcomes. And now that we understand that we have the resources we need, and we understand what the evidence indicates is needed, we could have some really good discussions about how best to enhance our outcomes to the point where we are very comfortable every student that walks through our doors, from the most gifted to the most challenged, irrespective of their race, gender, et cetera, really is receiving the kind of educational opportunity she or he needs to thrive. And that's an opportunity we have. I think we could be a leader, not just in the state but in the nation. And this tool is going to help us have discussions that lead us, I think, to a much better overall educational system. And that means much better outcomes for our students, which is really what it's all about.
Something we haven't done this year, largely because of the pandemic, but I think would be a great topic, is to do a tri-board, like a town hall of some sort, or a tri-board meeting where we can have conversations among the 3 districts about this very thing, right? To make sure that we're all sort of talking together in the same ways about the same things, because we all want the same goals, right? Like we're all working towards the same ends. And I think that might be really a powerful thing to maybe think about for the coming year, when we can be more easily convened.
my question is, what's next? Okay, and I know we have policy that has provided some direction that says, you know, we shall use this in our work. My paraphrase. But from your perspective, Greg, you said, you know, we kind of, it's together now, but what as a board, what should we expect next?
Well, exactly what the board should expect. And I don't think our administrative team is, you know, completely set on that, but we have work to do with this document at this point. To figure out those areas that we know we want to focus on and then figure out some sort of roadmap for how we're going to do that. So, you know, at some point bringing some sort of, you know, strategic approach for what we're going to, you know, how we're going to move with this in the months and years ahead. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing for us to begin to discuss that we can before the board. But I can give, I mean, we just need to spend some more time working on it at this point. So.
I would take questions by anyone else. All right, thank you so much. This was a ton of work, and I know that this has been going on for literally months, right? And so I don't want to minimize by the relative shortness of the conversation the incredible amount of work that went into this. But I do think this is just a jumping off. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys. As we go into the information section, with regards also to the board's new directive, reduction in some of the lengthy presentations, we have items that you will find in the information section that may not have been presented at a previous meeting. And when that happens, the team is prepared to answer any questions that you may have. So one we have is the property casual liability workers' compensation. Are there any questions about this? It's not a presentation, this is an information item.
Fred, any questions?
My only question was, and you seem to address this in the memo, but I just want to be clear, you are comfortable that the differential in price is market standard and near the low end of market standard for changes in these rates, correct?
To that, Ralph. Being in the business, I can tell you that for the last 20 years, the insurance, property casualty insurance industry has been what we call soft. There's been very little change in premiums, and a very narrow slope in growth in premium growth. That started to change about 18 months ago, and I have seen premium increases from anywhere from 12 to 60% and even beyond. I can tell you that Click is out there with premium increases. I happen to know for a fact that District 97 got a premium increase of 27.5%. So I think this is a very modest increase in premium. I think one thing that we do need to see in a report is kind of comparables in coverage, because especially as the market tightens, there are things that we may want to look at. For example, deductibles. You can save premium dollars by raising deductibles. Also, another thing to look at are loss reports. My dad told me years and years and years ago that, you know, if a customer doesn't have losses, he can control his costs and his increases. So, and some kind of analysis, whether we do it here in a board table or in a committee or something, looking at loss data. The other question I would have, I'm relatively familiar with the trust. I think it's the Illinois County Risk Management Trust, I think is the name that we're moving into. The question that I would have is that trust accessible? Meaning, if we have bad loss history, all right, and the trust as a group has bad history, can we be assessed retroactively after a term expires, additional premiums?
Actually, I have aligned, they, are with us tonight, if anybody has questions, that's why I asked them to actually work on, is that okay if they answer?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Hi, this is Kathy Salinas with Alliant. Thanks for having us. We can tell you that the ICRMT trust is not accessible.
Right, and Click was, correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
Because we've gotten bills.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Questions from any other board members on this item? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is the information. Is the racial equity procedure as indicated in the policy 7.12. There's supposed to be an annual update on where we are with the policy and procedure implementation. Dr. LaVoy Ammons, I want to say this is Dr. Ammons' last meeting as well, you will be missed. Is here to answer any questions that the board may have regarding the document that you received.
Questions, Marianne?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this document. I thought it was really interesting to see where you were and where things are going. I had just a small question about under the welcoming school environment section. You have use of universal screener to identify student needs, disaggregate screener results data by race and gender to ensure that resources go to vulnerable populations. And it just, reading that, I was thinking about what Kimberly Crenshaw has said about intersectionality, and I'm glad to see gender in this as well as race, given that these different marginalizations often reinforce each other. And I guess I just want to note and ask that we keep thinking about the extent to which we can also consider LGBTQ issues, disability issues, et cetera, that all of those factor into these intersectional marginalizations. So that was my only note. Thank you.
If I might add, excuse me, just for reference, I think in year 2 of my tenure, we developed a specific policy that's also aligned to policy 7:12, which is the equal education opportunities policy that is specifically focused on our LGBTQ students, and they are factored into this procedure as well. So you're absolutely right. Maybe we should be a little bit more specific of how those are aligned.
Yeah, it would be great to see it sort of explicitly added into this document. Thank you.
Yeah, that definitely can be done.
Others? Sam?
Yes. First of all, thank you for your service and your work in this. My question is, I know part of the discussion was the resource allocation.
Sure.
And so my question is kind of reflective of the prior discussion. So now we have this evidence-based fund, which is one piece. How are we going to incorporate or bring racial equity decision-making into that?
Sure. Well, I think that's a great question. What I will say goes back to the equity analysis tool, right? And being able to use that in tandem with a student-based funding process, right? As we look at the EBF presentation that we just saw, having a clear process, right, to identify what areas we need to allocate funds in, and having just this iterative process that happens over and over again to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students, but particularly using the equity analysis tool in partnership with that.
Questions from anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Dr. Ammons.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
And the last one is the COVID expenditures and revenues to date. Are there any questions tied to that document?
Just to thank you for providing the full picture, because it's a lot of moving pieces, but it helps me understand, where we are, so thank you.
Questions or comments, and any other board members?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, we're moving to a much more data-based approach to how we go about our business, which is the right way to go. It takes a lot of the emotion out of it and lets you focus on what works, what doesn't, what we actually are doing. So this is another great step forward, and I'm looking forward to continuing these great steps forward. So thank you.
Need to take the emotion out of Sarah's work.
I have not cried yet today.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, Tom.
It's not over.
It's great to see an academic institution being academic in its approach, right? That's what we'd want, right? So
That concludes our items.
All right, now, yes, Tom.
No. Where do we update like iGov activity, et cetera? I have a 1 second update. May I do that?
Yes.
Okay. So iGov is planning a sustainability retreat or session on the 18th of September at Brooks Middle School from 9 to 11 a.m. The intent is, the desire is to have all the boards participate, as many board members as possible, in strong showing. And the forum will be really multiple stages to discuss different sustainability issues. And so I think as a high school district, we have the added benefit, or our students have been active in that work, and I think we should encourage their involvement as well as the boards and our community. So more will be put forward, but I committed to at least making this announcement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. And Gail, if you wouldn't mind getting that on our sort of official calendar as soon as possible, so everyone can sort of stay, that'd be great. All right. So who's going first?
wait, Sarah, can I add one more tiny piece of business? Just that I don't know if people are aware that the library board had to appoint someone to fill a position recently, and they just did so. But they had, I think, 26 applicants. They did a sort of open call for applicants, and there was a tremendous number of impressive and committed people who applied for that. And they all made statements that are I think they're in the board minutes. So if there's a need for service on committees here, it might be a useful resource to take a look at. Perhaps people to reach out to, or if they are watching this board meeting, we encourage you to get engaged with the committee here. So thank you.
Miriam, that's fantastic news from the library.
I guess I'll go first. I don't know where to start. I wish I should have brought my old book, because I have three pages of descriptions of Joy Lynn from the residents and people she worked with and everybody at University City, Missouri. Every unbelievable, every positive adjective you could ever think about. And coming back from that trip was so positive, and then the process of hiring you was so positive. And I for one can't thank you enough for what you've done for this district and for this community. I think that the district was I think we were adrift the school was adrift. And you knew exactly what to do. You know, you were throwing a lot of curveballs. All right. and you handled them very well. You're going to be sorely missed, because when I filed my petitions to run again for the board, I was expecting to see you for at least another 3 years. You know, I can't say enough thank yous for the way that you handled yourself, the way you've, I think, educated us all. You've educated me. I think I'm a much better board member than I ever would have been because of you. And I know it's not goodbye, but it's just farewell for now, and I will meet you in St. Louis.
Okay. So, my first term, I was fortunate to be part of the group that first hired you as an interim, which was an easy choice, and then was pleased that you joined us as the superintendent. So that was good. The second term was because the ride was really getting going. And, you know, we saw that we were going to start to see some things. And so that was a big piece to that. And then the third term was, because I'm not snow, was really because the momentum and the path that you had blazed and the direction you had set, I was committed to being one to help assure that is continued. So that's a long series of steps, but it's all woven around you. So you are leadership. You are professional. You built the team, okay, which is to me a critical part to any leadership role, is to surround yourself with excellence. And just the fact that your lieutenant, or whatever we call him, is now going to be taking over is a true testimony to what you've done, to have for you to be able to bring somebody in and pass the baton and have it, you know, have them take it. It is all a reflection on what you brought to this district as a leader in any operation, any business. That's huge. So, and then all this is about two main things, which is it's all been so student centric from day one. You've taught me, between you and Jackie, it's the standing around the students, and you took a strategic plan that was a dust gathering, whatever you call it, to the DNA fabric, and you did that through your leadership and your style, and for that, I'm tremendously grateful, because that's permanent. That will stay, and you will be able to watch from afar as both your team and the plan continue to solidify, and that's what you've done, and so I'm tremendously appreciative, and I'm honored to have known you through this term, and it will continue. So thank you.
Right, who's next?
All right, I could take the Kofsky approach and go. So on my first day working with you 2 years ago, Dr. Adams, but instead of that, and I think I'll make everyone happy that I will not do that. I'm going to be brief, which is hard to believe, but yet true in this case. When I joined this board, I was predisposed to really want to work with you because I'd heard great things about you from your peers in the industry. As you know, I do a lot of public speaking around the state on education policy. I work with the Management Alliance a lot. And every to a person, school business official I met said, Dr. Pruitt-Adams really knows her stuff. So I was very excited to be coming into a situation where I knew the superintendent was respected by her peers. And then I got to know you, and you think about what you look for in a leader. High-end intellect, check, she's got that. Really knows the field of education incredibly. Oh yeah, check, she's got that. The ability to motivate the people. Oh yeah, check, she clearly's got that. Yeah, ability to motivate, no problem. Student focused. I have never heard anything come out of your mouth, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, that wasn't about making the environment at OPRF the best it could be for the students you serve. That's incredible leadership. So you have all this great leadership stuff, but you really sort of knock it out of the park by just being a genuinely good person. And so it was an honor to serve with you the 2 years I served with you, and would have loved to have more years with you, but am bitter, envious, and resentful that you get to retire while I don't. So be happy in retirement, and I look forward to continuing to see you over the years. Peace.
Thank you. Everyone's ready? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. As a parent of a graduate of OPRF, I can honestly say I initially was cynical about the environment, what she's going through, and just a lot of things are happening at the school. But the steps you have taken as a leader and helped transform the school to be equitable for students that look like my daughter, myself, and not just talk about it, but actually do it, it actually inspired me to run. I've told you this on several different occasions that my first interaction with you, the American Community discussions at the high school, which was draining for me because it's a lot to open up everything about your past and try to educate and try to get people to understand the issues within the Black community we have. Particularly, it was just tremendous to see you do with such grace, professionalism, eloquence. And when I heard your retirement, I was like, no, where's she going? I was kind of upset. But the team you've assembled in sitting with you on the CCB meetings, I am fully confident you're passing the torch to someone who's very capable. Now it's Dr. Johnson, not just Greg anymore. I'm calling you Dr. Johnson from now on. But I'm so happy we got a chance to experience your greatness. Thank you for caring and not just talking about, actually caring and implementing what we needed for these kids. And I'm fully confident if we stay on this path that you've created and led us through, that in the next 20, 30 years, we won't be having the same conversations as we have for the past 30 years in this community. So thank you. I wish you all the best. Again, thanks for inspiring me to step up and run for a position that I initially didn't want to do because of the time commitment. But I'm happy doing the work with you, the rest of the team, and I'm going to sorely miss you, as we all will.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm very new, both to the high school and to Dr. Pruitt-Adams, so I don't have a lot to say other than I already wrote some sappy stuff on Facebook that I think I tagged her into. But I guess the one thing I've been thinking about is, I don't know you well, but it must have been a really rough road to come to this, right? And given all the barriers that are in the way, that the fact that you were able to complete a doctorate, we've been trying at the library, we've had long conversations about hiring more upper level librarians of color, and it's difficult because there are so few. We have a real pipeline problem. And so making it through must have been very challenging. And once you got to this position, I am sure that you faced a host of difficulties that others might not have. And everything I've seen from you has been done with such dignity and grace, which is really tough to do sometimes. So I just really appreciate that you've given us a model for leadership that I think is terrific for the entire Oak Park community and River Forest. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to being on the library board and saying Oak Park, Oak Park and River Forest community. So, so thank you for that.
Thank you. So I remember when I first ran for the board, right? I love this many years ago, and thinking like, it's also obvious and it's also easy and it's clear like what we gotta get done, like what's the problem here? And then I got on the board and it really felt very different for many reasons. And I realized like how incredibly intractable these issues are, right? And so I'm glad that Tom like caught the fever and came on board for a third term, but like I never would have done a second term. What I really want to talk about, and honestly, is what you've been through since you've been here. Because I don't get the sense sometimes that some of our unfortunately most vocal and most critical community members appreciate the energy, the time, the effort, the commitment. I mean, the personal sacrifices that you have made to do this work for our kids. These are literally our children. And what you've been through from community members and some parents, it has been just really, really disheartening. And through it all, you have persevered, right? Like you've never wavered. And your commitment and the joy you bring to the work and the love of these kids. So I mean, like we hear inspiring leadership tossed around so much and it sounds so trite, but there are few leaders. I'm a huge Barack Obama fan, so I gotta throw him in there. But truly, like I can think of like 3 people that I would, you know, kind of categorize as truly inspiring. And I am just so privileged that I actually get to work with one. So don't forgive me for always crying. But it's been a real privilege. And I think if any of us can continue to put forth 1/10 of the effort that you have, your kids are gonna be okay. So, just incredibly grateful.
It has been an extraordinary journey. One that I will cherish and take with me for the rest of my days. This has been, you know, in 5 years, the love that has developed, the progress that has been made, is truly just a testament to the collective desire to make Oak Park and River Forest High School a better institution. And not for some of our kids, but for all of our kids. And the accolades that you give to me, I could not have done it if it were not for the collective effort of the whole. And so I'm just a cog in that piece, or just a piece in that puzzle. You know, there's that attitude takes a village. And that's what we've done in spite of those who don't want to be a part of the game plan. In spite of those who want a few pieces of the puzzle to continue to be missing. And we were able to do that. So the celebration is for all of us. I'm just happy that destiny brought me here when it did. so that I could be a part of it. Thank you. And with that, I say JPA out. I wish I had a mic.
So without having heard, I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
We all say no, she has to
I-
stay.
All right, all in favor of letting Jolene go home this evening?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Ammons, as well, for all of your service. Keep going. So, good night. Hold it together.